You're up.
Good evening. Welcome to the meeting of the Growth Planning Committee for July 2nd. We'll start off with the introduction of guests, members. Fortunately, there's no guests except for you out there in TV land.
Warner Gilliam.
James McMahon.
Dan Saunders.
Barbara Barwise.
Paul Hogan.
Janet Powell.
All right. Hello all. On our agenda, first thing is approval of minutes from the May 21st, 2019 meeting.
Looks good. I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara.
Second on the agenda is comments from guests, received mail, news from other committee board representatives. Any news?
So if everyone's okay with this, we could combine number 2 and number 4 because they're somewhat similar, in the sense that news from other committees and boards and the committee, the questionnaire piece is kind of the same thing. So
Very good.
let's go ahead and pass these packets out to you. And so what you have is just a. Well, I'll wait until everyone has it. So just an update on what this particular project is. So we're fortunate that we have in the past couple of years that we've had interns. We've had summer interns that have worked with us. And so this year, our intern that we have that's working in our office, Sarah Merriam, met with Dan and I. What was it, a couple months? Was it about a month and a half ago? Something like
about that.
And so we sat down with Sarah and looked over all the different strategies. The different strategies that were in the comp plan and the committees and the groups that they were assigned to, and Dan had set a really good framework as far as how we wanted to communicate with those boards and committees as far as figuring out where these strategies were. Had they been accomplished? Had they not been accomplished? And so Sarah was given the task of putting that together, and so she developed a letter that went to each of the individual groups and committees, as well as an individual spreadsheet with all of the different strategies that particular group was assigned, and so sent those out to all of the different groups, just looking for some response. So what you have in front of you is, so I asked her to put together just a little memo to give you all an update as far as where that process stands. Just the cliff notes of it so far, we've received 5 out of 25 responses. The due date is the 12th. We may, after we hit the 12th, may need to set out a reminder to folks. But then what I also asked her to do is to give, so you have 2 examples of what 2 of the departments submitted back. And ultimately, once all of the responses are received back, we'll put that all together in another spreadsheet. That'll be shared with the committee so you can see what those responses are. It'll be lovely reading, I'm sure. But that, I believe will serve as a really good basis for once we decide who we're going to do the rewrite for the comp plan. And there's going to be a ton of data right there as far as the status of all of the existing strategies. And so, like I said, I'm not going to go into all of the details of it, but you have there the letter that was sent out, and then just 2 of the better examples of responses that we received. So far, the groups that have responded have taken ownership of the goals that they were given.
That's good.
Nobody has said, "Oh, you should really give that to somebody else" at this point.
I got mine in yesterday.
Did you?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, but I feel like as a process that was a really good, a solution for that.
Yep.
You know, for that type of data collection.
Yep, good deal. Good feedback there on these examples anyways.
Chris took it seriously.
I'm glad. It's the opportunity, right?
Well, and that's, yeah, and I mean, we've said that to department heads, is that, you know, this is, you know, it's a 10-year plan, you know, but this is this is the time, you know, to have some input into the plan, as
Right.
opposed to just being, you know, ultimately being given a list of saying, here's the things that you should work on.
Right.
You know, I feel like this is not unusual, but somewhat unusual in a comp planning process, but I think it's a necessary step to
Oh.
really engage
Yeah.
For
all of
sure.
those groups.
Exactly. They should know best whether they feel that some of those strategies are relevant,
Right,
practical,
right.
et cetera, you know?
Yep.
It's also a nice reminder.
And it's also a reminder.
How quick did you get the responses from the 5?
You know, they kind of trickled in. You know, I mean, nobody jumped right on it, you know, in the first week or two, you know, but, you know, I would say they've come in the past month.
Yeah,
So.
hopefully it's on the radar and.
Yeah. If not, we'll send a reminder out. I mean, it's always a touchy, you know, I mean, how much time do you give someone? You know, you give them too much and it, you know, winds up in a pile. You don't give them enough and they just don't do it anyway, so.
If we send out a reminder, I don't, did you send it out in Excel? What was the format?
We gave them the option, so we sent out the paper versions to folks.
Yeah,
But there were a couple of groups where, you know, there were quite a few.
Yeah.
So we sent out the letter and then just gave them the option, said, you know, we can either send this to you in Excel or give you a paper copy,
Yeah.
so.
because it's going to be tedious if we get a lot more like all
Right.
handwritten, trying to figure out what it says. Whereas we'd be able to just cut and paste and.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
But,
Most of the responses so far have been one word
Yeah.
answers, so it hasn't been, you know, it's not that big of a deal, but for the larger ones, you know, we encourage them to do it in Excel.
yeah. But we'll take the data any way they'll provide it.
Right.
Right. They just may have to call them and say, what is that
Yeah, what does
word
that say?
after?
Oh, what's that say?
I can read it.
But I can read this, this is pretty good. So I'd like to thank the 5 who responded. Thank you very much.
Who were the 5? We should give them a shout
Yeah,
out for
there's-
being so.
There's a shout out to
The health
Allison
department,
from
the
Public Health,
sewer
and Chris
department.
from Public Works.
That's a great
and
question.
I don't know who the other 3
You'd
are.
ask me.
but-
Public Works
Yeah.
was another one who responded.
Was it police?
I
Public
don't
safety.
believe I've seen the police department
Oh, I
yet.
just saw the last page. I assumed it was the
The budget may or may
police
not
department
be
and
here.
animal control. I figured it
Yep.
was.
Came in yesterday.
No, the budget one that came, we found out just came in yesterday, so thank you
Yes.
there.
River Committee, also.
Thank you, River
you know,
Committee.
Also
Thank you, River
submitted,
Committee.
so, and I'm forgetting who else was there, so,
Good.
you know, admittedly, I'm working on mine, so.
Okay. Well, we'll give you a shout out next meeting.
That's right, yeah,
Or send him a letter reminding
that's
him.
right, or send me a
One or the
letter
other.
reminding me,
Write your own letter.
that's right. So,
All right. Well, thank you, Sarah, for your work, too. Okay, any comments, questions on this? All right, so we knocked off 1, 2, and 4.
all right, so our
Comprehensive
comp plan RFP. So, comp plan RFP went out. We received 5 responses, received 5 proposals. I'm going to speak just generally about those since we're kind of in process with those, but I want to just give you all an update where we're at. So we received 5. They came from Sebago Technics, Goman and York, Adam Burke Company and Principal, TZM Planning, and Malone and McBroom were the ones who submitted.
All from Maine.
So Sebago Tech is from South Portland. Goman and York is out of East Hartford, Connecticut. Adam Burke and Company is out of Portland. TZM is out of Portsmouth. And Malone and McBroom, they're a larger company. They have a presence in Maine, but they have offices in Connecticut, Maine, Mass, New Hampshire, and Vermont. So So good in the sense that we've got a good, we've got a good New England response. Sometimes you never know, whenever you put out RFPs like this, sometimes you get some very, you get odd ones. You get California proposals, and
Yeah.
when we did GIS maps, I mean, we got proposals out of India.
Okay, that'll work.
But so just generally speaking, I'm very happy with the ones that came in. All good reputable firms. So process-wise now that we've received these, per the RFP, the interview committee will consist of the town manager, myself, representative from the Board of Selectmen, and 2 members of growth planning. The plan on the project was to shortlist the consultant group, and my goal was to shortlist this from 5 proposals down to 3 for interview purposes. And on the schedule, we did have scheduled the week of July 8th, next week, as being the week for interviews. So what I'd like to propose, and, I would notify all of the, all of the folks who submitted that, again, because this was a guideline, I'd like to bump it back another week, just to give everybody some chance to schedule. So I'm looking for one more representative from growth planning. Dan expressed an interest in being part of that group, so he has a copy of those proposals. So I'd like to have one more rep from growth planning to be available for those interviews. We don't have any times set up as of yet, but I wanted to have that discussion with you all first as far as general availability. What I would propose to the app, to those that we would interview, we would just do it in one day, do 45-minute interviews, essentially 15, 20-minute breaks in between the 3 interviews. So it would either be it'd be a morning or an afternoon commitment from someone. So
I'm available.
Can you, in the thinking about it, I guess, can we narrow down when the interest would be, as far as when you're thinking you're gonna do it? As far as, morning or afternoon, obviously, work commitments or
yeah.
for me, or,
So if we look,
gonna be tough.
so that would be the week of the 15th. So looking at the schedule for that, I would probably initially propose a Wednesday. Just go for the middle of the week. I believe that that Lori's available that week. And so, what the process, how we have the process outlined is that whoever from growth planning decides, they want to participate in that, you would get the proposals. I have some general questions, and then I have a sheet that I can email out that, kind of gives you an opportunity to kind of rank those proposals a bit. And then we're just looking, and I'll look for consensus as far as who the 3 would be.
Okay.
And then I would, send those responses out to to those 3 as far, and checking for their availability.
Robert, did you want to participate? Because we can do, rock, paper, scissors. If there's more than 2 of us that want to participate,
Right, sure.
no problem.
Yeah, flip a coin, I don't care.
Yeah.
Paul has agreed, Paul has said he's available. Jan?
I'm not available.
I'll have to,
Garden tour.
work's gonna be tough, but,
Okay.
if I'm available, I'd like to take a back seat and be part of it, but,
Is that an option? That someone can just, is this going to be an open?
Well,
gonna be
it's,
closed.
it's
I
a
mean,
closed,
it's
it's a,
closed.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
closed meeting, closed
Yeah.
interview process, you
Yeah.
know, with just the interview committee. So it's not
Yeah.
something that we
Okay.
open to the public.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I have flexibility during that week. I can adjust
You
my
do.
work hours too.
good.
I'll be home, so.
Okay.
When I'm home, I get more flexibility. I'm on the road and I got nothing.
Nothing,
Yeah.
yep.
How's my boss?
Yeah,
I'm interested, I guess, whatever you know, find out. you know,
Okay.
As far as, narrowing down the timeframes.
Okay, well, what I'll do is I'll take a look at the schedule and just send out some, send out some possibilities, and just see where that works, but,
Okay.
yeah.
So what's the target date for coming down to the three? When you wanna get that narrowed to?
So shortlisting of the consultants, I'd like to, I'd like to have that process finished by the middle of next week, at the latest.
Yeah, I mean, I could target Monday if you
yeah.
need that time to get a hold of those other
Yeah.
people and give them
Yeah,
fair
Monday,
notice.
Monday would be preferable, but,
Okay, let's target
recognize
Monday.
that I don't want to monopolize folks' weekend with proposals.
Yeah, yeah.
With
it's
reviewing
interesting.
comp plan proposals. Although in the grand scheme of it, I've looked them over and they're a relatively easy read, for what it is that we're looking for.
Yeah.
So, and again, thinking of this as, this is just a short list, this is a short list process right now. It's a matter of, here's the RFP, which one of these actually ticked off the list, and followed the RFP. So.
Yeah, that's the one. I mean, I've obviously had an opportunity to read through some of this, and there's a lot of pages in here that are just examples of stuff, so those,
Yep.
you kind of quickly go through.
So also the way that, the way that we had this set up, I do have examples of their work products, that they sent out electronically. And so, once we have that, again, I didn't want to muddy the waters with proposals from examples from all five. But once we've shortlisted to the three, then I can email out examples of their previous work. So, or provide it,
Okay.
to whoever on a flash drive, whichever's easiest.
Okay. And from, I mean, the cost point hasn't been discussed yet, but have you seen that? Have you seen those? Is like everybody within the,
So we specifically asked to have have their price and cost proposals
Separate.
assigned separately. I will say I did look, and all except for one was under budget.
okay.
So
So at least we're comparing apples to
yeah, hmm
maybe a really bright, shiny apple.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All extremely close.
Okay,
in
good.
terms of where we had set the budget. So. Yeah, and then in terms of our timing, as far as a recommendation of our committee, once we do the interviews, if we do that on the week of the 15th, then, it gives us some time. I was looking just to have a issue of notice that first week of August to try to coincide with the Board of Selectmen's meeting schedule. Again, that gets a little bit tricky because they usually, in the summertime, only meet once a month, so. And then everything else should fall in line, contract execution, August 15th, hopefully then with a start work at the beginning of September, so.
All right.
So, yeah.
Any other questions on the
Nope.
topic?
Nope.
Boom. Okay, other business. Any other business?
So I don't have anything else, at this point. I really just wanted to bring you all up to date on where we stood with the questionnaires and the proposals. One thing that we should think about is, and we can talk about this once we've once we've engaged with one of these folks, is whether or not we want to have Southern Maine Regional participate and provide some some additional staff support during a comp plan piece. I think I have a kind of a menu of things that they could provide, with Abby throughout the comp plan process, if that's something that we're interested in. So, and not something that we need to figure out, right away.
Okay.
But something that we can consider. So.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely could see her as a resource during that process,
Mhm.
that's advocating on our side, right? I mean, not that
Right.
the consultant won't be, but they'll have some better insight than I certainly would have in how those consultants
Yep.
work, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we
Could
can
be very
certainly
helpful.
use them as a peer review service.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Of what we're seeing that comes, that's coming
Peer
forward.
review
So,
and,
yeah.
based on what we're getting, whether or not they're really on schedule and that kind of stuff, based on
Yeah.
their expertise. So I could see some value in that, I just don't know what that cost is, and is
Yeah.
it worth it associated with the budgeting and all the rest?
I just had one question, Warner. It's kind of unrelated to anything, but where's the flood map situation at this point? We haven't had an update in a while.
Yeah, so
Oh, dear.
flood mapping, so we submitted our appeal.
When was that?
That was, I'm gonna say that was approximately 6 months ago.
Okay.
When that was submitted. And so we've been in touch with Ransom a number of times on that, and there's been a lot of, crickets chirping on the FEMA end of things. FEMA has not requested any additional information, and so at this stage, we don't know is that's good or if that's bad. And so
Or if anybody's looked at?
or if anyone's looked at it at this
Gosh,
point.
if there was anyone
What
there.
we, the latest feedback that we heard was that they were in the process of drafting a response. So that draft response could, it could say a number of things. It could say, we've accepted your study, and they'll then produce new maps, that'll follow that study. It could be a request for more information, although we think that that's unlikely in the sense that, practically speaking, we'd have thought they'd have asked for more information by now. Or it could be a notification that they're going back to the drawing board to do the whole thing over again. Or it could just be a flat-out just rejection of the
No.
study.
Yeah, rejection.
No.
So,
And what sections of town was that done for?
it was the coastal analysis, so we did not do any restudy of the inland non-tidal flood zone areas. Because actually that was information that we provided to FEMA in one of the last iterations. We had Ransom do an inland floodplain study, and we submitted that information to them. So that has remained in the mapping product. But what was appealed was essentially the coastal analysis, and that included essentially up to the Route 9 bridge on the Kennebunk River, and then all of the coastal areas. We had some additional transects that we had them do some additional work on. Primarily, the transects that we had them look at were ones where we had the most development. So primarily Goose Rocks, Cape Porpoise, where the maps affected people's homes. We didn't have any additional study done on some of the transects that landed in the islands, or in particular some of the higher coastal bluffs, along Ocean Avenue. Even though some of those numbers were ridiculously high, they didn't affect any particular homes. So we didn't we didn't put our resources towards those areas.
So we paid for the analysis and submitted it to FEMA, and they still haven't responded?
Correct. Yep.
But on a personal level, you can do this and you get a response back. You know, it doesn't, you know, maybe within a month. So why is FEMA taking so long for this as opposed to a personal, you know?
It's
complicated.
It's because of the scale of
Well,
it.
I'm sure it's complicated, but
It's-
you still, we paid for analysis.
Yeah, but it's
the
the
same
scale.
thing commensurate to you getting a survey and having all that paperwork done. I mean,
But one lot is pretty simple.
Yeah. If you're doing, say, for instance, a letter, a letter of map amendment, it's a pretty straightforward process, pretty, relatively simple. But even a letter of map amendment could take 6 months, to get done.
I mean, it's just more bang for the buck. I mean, there's still people out there that are getting this done individually. If this benefits, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't, you know.
So in terms of thinking of the scale of this is York and Cumberland County.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of data that's there that
Right.
has to be looked at. And I'm not making excuses for them. It's
Oh.
just when I think of the scale of what was submitted, it's a significant chunk of
So
data.
it wasn't just
Yep.
Yeah, I
Kennebunkport,
just-
it was the whole
It's,
count, it was all both counties. 'Cause
That's
we
right,
were
yep.
Part of a.
Since FEMA changed how they, previously and under our current maps, the detailed studies were for each individual community, and so if a community was appealing, they ultimately were just appealing their study. But when they switched to countywide studies, in effect, you're appealing the entire countywide study. Now, there's gonna be portions of it that they won't change or that weren't appealed, and obviously, we were submitting data, specific to the communities that were participating. But, in terms of a document,
It's still the county.
you're appealing the whole thing. Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
Yeah, so that's where we're at. As soon as we get a letter response, that'll be made public, that'll be published, and then we'll let folks know what the next step is.
All right, very good. Any other business? All right. Next meeting?
So on our schedule, our next scheduled meeting would typically be either the 6th of August, the 6th or the 20th.
6th is a village parcel at night? Oh, no. Is that right? Or is that the following week?
I believe we're thinking about August already.
I have village parcel on both of those evenings.
Do you?
But those steering committee meetings are held beforehand. Those are from 4 to 6, so there's no conflict as far as those particular dates.
There's the potential that I'm traveling every week in August, instead of spending
Summer in Maine.
beautiful Maine in August. I could be in Alabama.
Obviously not a good planner.
So, yeah, not a good planner on my part. So pick whatever Tuesday works best for the rest of the group.
I'm not available the week of that 6th.
Okay,
What's our timing in terms of,
so.
do we need to make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen?
So as far as this particular timeline, we'd be issuing notice of award the week of August 8th. But that would be coming from the interview committee,
Okay.
Okay.
and
So
not.
we don't need to vote on anything associated with
No.
that? Okay.
Nope, that would just be coming from from the interview committee. And then we'd be looking to execute the contract by August 15th.
Okay.
So we could do an August 20th, and that would be that would be an update in terms of
Okay.
who
Yep.
we awarded it to and, what we anticipate the next steps are gonna be,
Okay.
so.
Very good.
20th works for me.
All right, great.
Jim's not here.
Okay.
So I guess
I'll
we.
make a
I
motion-
guess-
make a
I
motion
guess-
to,
I guess we can
You
adjourn.
can't end.
He's always jumping on it.
Well, she's got to write the notes, so, Paul, you want to make?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I'll second to adjourn.
second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yep, let's make sure we're, folks.
okay.